here at the OFAH Heritage Center. I'm standing in front of our invasive species exhibit because today's lesson is all about invasive species. I'm joined today by my colleague Jordan, who will share more information about these invaders. To maintain a safe distance, I'm going to pass it over to Jordan.
Hello everyone. As you may or may not know, this week is the Invasive Species Awareness Week. This international campaign was introduced to engage with the public about invasive species, their impacts, and share methods on how we can prevent the introduction and spread of invasive species in our areas. It has operated successfully since 2016, with lots of organizations joining together to share a united message on the threat of invasive species and the risks that they pose to our Canadian heritage. In order for us to take action against invasive species, it's important to know what they are and why they are a threat to our ecosystems. Invasive species are plants, animals, insects, fish, or even diseases and pathogens that come from other parts of the world and are introduced into our Ontario ecosystems. Sometimes the introductions are by accident, and sometimes they're on purpose, not realizing the negative impacts that they'll have on our environment. They arrive here in many ways, including in the ballast water of large ships that have come from other parts of the world, the release of aquarium plants or improper garden plant disposal. Sometimes they're introduced by moving our live bait and releasing unwanted pets into the wild instead of finding new homes for them, as well as hitchhiking on the outdoor equipment that anglers and hunters use frequently, like boats, trailers, ATVs, and even our hiking or hunting boots. Once they are here, they spread very quickly and they outcompete the native species or the species that are naturally found here in Ontario. They compete with them for resources like food, water, and habitat. It's important to know that not all species that come from other parts of the world and are introduced here in Ontario are considered invasive. In order for a species to be considered invasive, they have to have a negative impact on our ecosystems, our economy, or human health. These invasive species are able to outcompete our native species because they typically do not have any natural predators when they arrive, so there's nothing to keep their populations under control. They are usually larger than our native species and reproduce very, very quickly. You can think of them like bullies who take away food, water, and destroy habitats for the species that are supposed to be here. For example, the round goby was accidentally introduced to Ontario when it hitchhiked a ride in the ballast water of large ships coming from Europe and Asia. When those ships released their ballast water into our oceans, they made their way into our water bodies here in Ontario, and then they were used often as fishing bait because they're a nice small bait fish. When folks are using their fishing bait and releasing it into the water, that's one way that the round goby has spread. In order to prevent further spread and introduction of round goby here in Ontario, it is now illegal to use them as fishing bait, and it's illegal to dump any of your live fishing bait back into the water where you're fishing. Boats are also required to treat their ballast water before releasing any more invaders into our waters. Even though they are small fish, round gobies are quite aggressive in their feeding habits and their use of habitats, so they outcompete the native bait fish that are supposed to be here. They also feed on the eggs of the sport fish that anglers like to go fishing for, like walleye and bass. Another aquatic invader that threatens our sport fish here in Ontario is the sea lamprey. The sea lamprey are long, jawless fish, and they kind of look like a snake or a leech in the water. Sea lamprey were originally introduced to Lake Ontario through the creation of the Welland Shipping Canal around Niagara Falls. So where there once was a natural barrier keeping them out of Lake Ontario, they now had a free path straight into this great lake. Sea lamprey attach themselves to large fish like Atlantic salmon, and they feed on their body fluids similar to a leech. Anglers, hunters, and hikers also need to be mindful of the invasive plants that are in the environment to avoid spreading them to new areas. Commonly used equipment by these outdoors people like boats, trailers, your hiking boots, your hunting clothes can easily transport small pieces of plants or seeds from plants to new areas where they haven't been before. Many aquatic plants, like Eurasian water milfoil, can start new colonies just from tiny little pieces of a plant. So it's important as anglers and boaters that we're cleaning off our equipment in between trips. We want to make sure that our boats, trailers, fishing rods, and all of the other equipment that we are using has been cleaned off, where you can clean, drain, and dry your boat fully between trips. Even if you're not an angler or a hunter, there's still lots of actions that you can take to prevent the spread of invasive species or introducing them to new areas where they haven't been established before. First, you can learn to identify which invasive species can be found in your area. If you know what you're looking for, it's much easier to take precautions to prevent spreading them further and to learn how to properly manage or remove those species from the environment. You can also teach others what you know about invasive species so that we can all work together to prevent the spread and manage the invasive species that are established here in Ontario. Make sure you never release unwanted pets into nature. It is illegal to dump your goldfish into the waterways. It's best to find a new home for them instead. Make sure all of your garden plants and aquarium plants are disposed of properly. Don't leave those out in nature. Make sure that you're following the best management practices guide so that those species don't form new colonies where they were released. You can also report any sightings of invasive species to the Invading Species Awareness Program. You can call their hotline, or you can upload your photos directly to the Early Detection and Distribution Mapping System of Ontario. This app allows you to upload any photos of invasive species that you find, identify where they were found, and it goes into a database that helps to track where invasive species are being found and help to identify any new introductions for early action before they have a chance to establish. Check out the links in the description to learn how to use the EdMaps app or how to upload photos to their website. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about invasive species during this Invasive Species Awareness Week. If you did want to learn more, head over to the Invading Species Awareness Program, www.invadingspecies.com, where there's lots of fact sheets and information to help you become familiar with the invaders that we have here in Ontario. There are also curriculum kits for teachers on that website to help teach invasive species and the impacts on biodiversity in the classroom.
Thanks, Jordan. That was great information to share during Invasive Species Awareness Week. And we hope that inspires you to learn more about the invaders that can impact our ecosystems and to take action to further prevent the spread. Be sure to like this video and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay connected as we learn together outside the classroom.